Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Nerd Pod Generations, episode 145. As always, I am one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Judson. Hello, sir.
Hello, friends and enemies.
It's good to be back, man.
You're back. You're here.
Yes.
Right at the height of the summer.
So it was weird, because this is... Luckily, last week, thankfully, you and Kelly were able to put a show out, so we didn't have... Because we had a missed week, then we had a week together... And then we were going to have another missed week, and luckily we had some content to fill, which was wonderful, and I'm very grateful you both did that.
I'm super happy that Kelly was on the show.
Yes.
We had a great show.
We're always happy when she's on the show, but she adds that extra level of class to the show that you and I kind of missed a little bit.
100%. I run right past it on a regular basis. We're gonna.
And I think we avoid it, to be honest.
At times, I have a whole story to go with watching the Acolyte this week that I think is
I can't
pretty.
Wait.
Yeah, but no, it was great having Kelly on the show. One of my favorite segments of the year so far has been just going down the list of movies that we watched that she hasn't reviewed on the show, and just having her do like a 2-minute, like, what did you think of Godzilla -1? What did you think of Wish? What did you think of this? And that was one of my favorite segments we've done this year.
That was a good segment. Yeah, that was a good segment. But I'm very grateful for that. So, folks, once again, Nerd Pod Generations, episode 145. That means there are 144 past episodes of pure gold, and there's going to be more to come, including we have just pretty much solidified our next watch and review, which will be Wolverine and Deadpool, which will be Saturday the 27th, I believe.
Yes, is when we're going to record it.
So hopefully that's something to look forward to. But if you're interested in things like that, we have done watch and reviews for a lot of movies in the past. We have plenty of reviews for movies that have come out on like Netflix and whatnot, including Godzilla -1, which we were just mentioning. That we reviewed like 5 episodes ago. 4
yeah, not that long ago. A few weeks ago.
I hark back to missing those days that we can review something good.
Yeah.
But hopefully Wolverine and Deadpool will be good.
Wade and Wolvie. We'll see how it goes.
God, my fingers are crossed.
I'm so scared.
I'm a little nervous, I'm not going to lie.
A little nervous.
So, folks, please go to NerdPodGen. Once again, NerdPodGen.com, and that is our website where you have links to pretty much all of our personal stuff that we do, and links to Spotify, links to our YouTube channel. If you do listen to our show and you do watch us on YouTube, make sure you are subscribing, please, to the podcast and to the channel, and then leave likes and reviews. Don't even have to like it. Just leave a review. Let us know what you think. Let us know of topics that you might want us to cover.
We're one of the few shows that will still read the comments.
Yes, because
we haven't learned better yet.
No.
We don't have that
scar.
Not
even a little bit.
We haven't been whipped to succession on that.
Only we have been overly critical of ourselves.
Yes.
Not quite as many people on the outside world.
Yes, indeed. Please, so.
Be critical. Since you're going to have Kelly join you on yours, I figure I'll start with mine, kind of go through my stuff, and then we can roll into yours.
Absolutely.
I got a couple quick hits I want to touch on. This one I want to be a quick hit.
Good luck.
My son and I continued our MCU journey.
Cross your fingers.
We did watch the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, which I still really enjoyed, but you can tell how that show was made for adults, which kind of screws up the whole MCU as kind of a kid thing.
Well, and it's so niche. They went too hard.
It's very niche.
Like, listen, I love the filmmaking of those 2 episodes. I will just say, I think there's a difference between doing a Psycho-style recreation of I Love Lucy and Dick Van Dyke Show, and something that needed to be more tapered, needed to be more in line with trying to keep people invested.
I agree.
Because it got so far afield. I love doing it. I love the way that they did it. I think that they just needed to have a different element involved in the show.
And what sucks about it is, and this is what I was telling my son, we have to watch it. Like, you cannot watch Doctor Strange in the Mouth of Madness unless you have seen that show.
Yeah.
Like, we have to see that show. And so we're trying to get through it, and then from there we did watch the next one in the official timeline, which is Spider-Man Far From Home. I gotta say, I still love Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
I wish they would have not made him into a goofy character like they did in the second half. Like in the first half, if he just ended up like moving that into being just a straight up villain instead of this, I'm a begrudged scientist and Tony Stark and blah, 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 blah. And it kind of took away from the character for me. I hated that movie more than I did the first time I saw it. The first few times I've seen it. Like, I really did not enjoy myself watching this movie. And the cherry on top was the J. Jonah Jameson at the end, knowing...
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons. I always forget his name for some reason. Sorry, J.K.
Wanted
Simmons.
hair.
I do love you. He wanted the hair. And it's like, how? Like, seeing him bald, and he has the voice, and he has the persona, and everything's perfect, and just seeing him bald, I was like, God damn it, that was the worst missed opportunity.
This is the dirty little secret, is that John Watts, the director, is a fucking idiot.
He is an absolute moron.
I have been saying this for almost a decade now. Yeah. Dude's a fucking idiot. And anytime I see him signed on for something, I'm like, oh, pray to the nerd gods that he doesn't ruin this too. Because that's what he does.
Yeah.
He runs we were talking about running past the point. He runs 100 yards past the point, and he doesn't hear any of the people shouting, being like, no, John, you need to turn this way. He's just gone.
Yeah.
He's just gone, and he doesn't even stop and think, hey, it doesn't make sense for Spider-Man to drive a car. Hey, does it make sense for Spider-Man to have these glasses that he just hands over to the first person ever? Hey, if you're going in for a stealth mission, maybe wear gloves that have fingers on them.
Yeah.
So that people can't, I don't know, track who you are because you left oily fingerprints everywhere while wearing gloves. How did you do that?
So dumb. And that actually, there are 3 words in the English language that will incite rage in me. The Night Monkey.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just listening to that name being said, and I'm like, the costume was kind of cool. Other than the glove thing, as like a piecemeal, you don't want to do like the Venom symbiote, and I thought it wasn't bad,
but it was just
stupid.
My problem is that this is a tactical suit provided by S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah,
this fucking sucks.
Yeah,
this is not a tactical suit provided by S.H.I.E.L.D. You got to be shitting me if this is the best that S.H.I.E.L.D. can muster up. I don't care that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been gone for 5 years in canon. Maybe. We're guessing. Who the fuck knows? This is post-blip. Thank you also to this movie for ruining it. It was the snap for a solid year and a half, and then all of a sudden it's the blip.
Yeah.
It was not the snap. It was never the snap. It was always the blip.
Yes.
And it's like, God, fuck you guys. Just fuck you guys for just screwing this whole goddamn thing up.
It was so bad, and I hated it.
I agree with you. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. There are elements of the monsters that I like, but the fact that you name them Molten Man and Hydro Man, I'm like, well, then that fucking sucks.
Yep.
And then they try and pitch us this thing of MJ, I can't call her Mary Jane because she's not, MJ saying that Hydro Man somehow reminded her of her ex-boyfriend. And I'm just like, what the fuck? This is a Maury Bench call out, and I can appreciate what you're doing, but it makes no sense in this context. No. And there were just so many stupid missed opportunities. That is still the only time that I actually start liking Tom Holland is when he gets his ass kicked and then has to build his own suit. And I'm like, finally, this fucking idiot child is taking some level of, you'll call me crazy, responsibility. Oh my God. We had 2.5 movies with no responsible Spider-Man. Why did we do this?
And I agree with you. But then they had to ruin that scene with him and Happy in the jet.
I mean, that was already ruined. And then he's like, what song is this? I love Black Sabbath.
No, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
When it was AC/DC.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Stop with that joke is the dumbest thing.
It's so fucking dumb.
And I don't ever see it going away. No matter how old he gets, they're going to say stupid shit.
They tapered it down some in Far From Home, or No Way Home.
No Way Home.
But, it was his whole character for how many movies was just, oh, reference, but it's not a really good reference, and also it makes me look like a baby. The way that I'm going to make this reference makes me look like a baby.
And an idiot.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. I think you know who the fuck AC/DC is.
I just want, as a hypothetical, if you had a black cat who is like 25... imagine her in any way being attracted to this Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Pitch that to me. That black cat, an adult woman of any kind, is attracted to this guy, and she doesn't think he's a child.
Yeah.
I want to emphasize, she doesn't think he's a child? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because he's short, his voice hasn't dropped, and every time he makes a reference past 1998, he says a long time ago.
Yeah. No, it's dumb. It was dumb. So moving on from that, I'm going to briefly touch on Doctor Who. So my wife and I finally finished the 2-part finale.
Yes.
I can honestly and happily say I don't think I've ever seen a television show go from so bad to so good in such a short period of time. Because it's only, I believe it's 8 episodes.
Yeah.
7 or 8, something like that. And the first 3 were so fucking bad that I was like, God, this is the end of Doctor Who. But then It got so good. The last 2 episodes, it's this 2-part finale having to deal with this character. It's a villain from an Tom Baker Doctor Who, and it's they play it off almost like it's a Egyptian god.
Okay.
And it wrapped itself around the TARDIS. And the cool thing about it is, from that episode with Tom Baker, he originally exiled this demon into, or this entity into the time vortex.
Okay.
But what happened is when the TARDIS was leaving the vortex, it wrapped itself around the TARDIS and used the filter that the TARDIS has to make itself invisible. And it traveled everywhere the Doctor went.
Oh, one of those.
To every planet. And what it did is almost like a Thanos type event. Every planet the Doctor landed on, this entity created this one being. And it's the same. It was an older woman in the show. But it created the same being on every planet as a different part of that planet's ecosystem, or, you know, the population, that's the alien race or whatever. And then at one point it decides, all right, now we're going to do our snap event, and it creates this like sand cloud that just kills everybody.
Wow.
It's like it referred to itself as like a demon of death, or an angel of death.
Right.
And it was just really cool. And you know, it was a very Doctor Who-y.
Sounds like a Doctor Who plot. Yeah.
And you know, once again, the whole thing, for anyone who's watching Doctor Who, is a fan of Doctor Who, this Doctor is so incredibly different, and you just have to get used to the intricacies of this Doctor. And once you do, you'll love him, because he really is. He's a fantastic actor, and he does a great job. He just is different. He's not the same as the other Doctors. The only complaint I would have on these final 2 episodes is they bring back the Rose character from the first ever, or the whole David Tennant run.
Really? Did they bring back Billie Piper?
No. Rose, no, not that character. The trans character.
Oh, that Rose.
That Rose.
That Rose.
They brought her back, and she works at UNIT now, which was cool.
Of course, yeah.
But it's like, you already showed that she is like partnering kind of with David Tennant's Doctor, who still exists.
Yeah.
So now you're having this end of the world situation, and you have her in UNIT, and there's no mention or sign of David Tennant.
Yeah, where's he?
And it's like, you would assume she would have a way, seeing as she was very close to David Tennant at the end of that 3-run episode, that she would have a way to contact him. She would have a way to say, hey, listen, literally every life form in the universe is getting wiped out. What you doing? You want to come help? And maybe the 2 Doctors team up to end this? And it's like, the fact that there was no mention of him, that's the only thing that bothered me. I'm like, you dug yourself into a hole, and at the end of that first 3-run episode, that now to not have him, and to not have Donna mentioned, it kind of threw off that whole finale for me a little bit. It was still a really fun episode.
I mean, that was an inevitable, because they left David Tennant alive. So by leaving him alive, you're inevitably going to have this situation. Yes. And because they did this before, they had David Tennant survive, but he was in another universe, and he was no longer the Doctor. He no longer had the Time Lord powers. He was just a human version of himself. Yes. So you didn't do that. He's still a Time Lord. He's still the Doctor. And the more I think about it, the more I wonder if there aren't several races that would be deeply concerned that there are now 2 Doctors running around. Yeah. And so I get it. You're retired. I also understand, circumstantially, I think you would want to come out of retirement to help pinch hit in this situation.
And the thing that, like, one of the arguments I've heard is, well, you know, maybe he was at a different time or whatnot. This event happens throughout time, because the Doctor had landed on a bunch of these planets at different times, and that's when this being was created to walk amongst the people and then eventually bring about the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not even like he could be at a different time and not know this is occurring. This is occurring throughout time.
Exactly.
At every point in the universe that the Doctor's ever visited.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so he's gonna be aware.
Like, I am happy, even though this first season you don't really see, or there's not even really a mention of any classic Doctor Who villains, there is a mention of the Daleks.
Okay.
So that made me happy. Just hearing that, I mean, it was a 1 second thing.
Yeah.
But hearing that word, I was like, okay.
I still get it because I remember very distinctly that was one of my issues with Capaldi was just like they kept running through the same villains over and over again. So I get it that they're trying to build a little bit of distance, but you gotta make sure that the Daleks are still somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like they've created so many villains over the 60 years the show's been on. I know. I mean, they did. They brought one back with this, which was great. But like the toy maker, and then this being, they're so obscure because they were in like 1 or 2 episodes. So it's not even like they're like the Master, who wasn't in a ton of episodes, but he was in almost every iteration of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. I mean, it's cool, but it's like, I guess you're at least tapping into the history of the Doctor.
Bring back satanic oods.
Yeah,
bring them back.
Do the oods. I love the fucking oods. All right, so moving on. So the Doctor, I give the series a solid, I'm gonna say B+, because I can't look past those first 3 episodes. But this show ended so strong, and I'm very excited for the future. Even though they did play off like Ruby Sunday, who is the current companion, is either not going to be back next season or is going to be back in a limited role, which kind of sucks because I really like her and she did such a great job. And I loved, they are 2 extremely beautiful people and there was 0 sexual tension. And I love that. I'm like, good. Have a show where you have beautiful people and there's not even a hint of sex. It's like, that is the greatest because you can just focus on them, like truly appreciating their friendship.
Yeah.
And that felt so good. Like when they hugged each other, you're like, oh, they literally just love each other as people.
Yeah.
And not in a physical way.
I mean, this is something that we've been talking about, not us, but just as a culture.
Yes.
Is the unnecessary romance that is 1940 style just shoved in.
Yep.
And it doesn't make any sense and it's weird. And if you look at it on an actual timeline basis, you're like, this is an extremely fast romance.
Yeah. And it was not.
And you don't have,
not good.
Not every movie is Speed where they joke about how they're going to break up in 5 months anyway. So
that is true. That is true. So I'm going to briefly touch on The Boys. I've watched up to the latest episode of The Boys.
Which is quite controversial. It's controversial enough that I've heard rumors and rumblings.
Well, here's the thing. The shine is off on what makes the show, which is ultraviolence, nudity, just completely shocking scenes. I don't like it because that's gotten boring. Now, listen, I will do anything in my power to make fun of the ultra-right conservatives in the real world.
Yes. Why wouldn't you?
Totally love making fun of them.
Yeah.
This show has, and they've kind of touched on it throughout the seasons, and they make Homelander almost like the end of the last season, they make him like he literally is Trump.
Yeah.
Where he says, I can kill somebody on Fifth Avenue. At the end of this last season, he literally blows a dude's head off in front of hundreds and thousands of people, and because he was protesting against Homelander, and he was just an innocent civilian, but everyone cheered because he killed a liberal. And it's like, okay, now, but this season, they are way going overboard. It is so obvious what they're doing. Like, it's, I appreciate making fun of things like this and movements like this, but you don't need to go so in, like, just, I want to say, I'm not even going to say slap in the face. This is a Hulk punch in the face.
Yeah.
Of, okay, we have this new character, Firecracker, who is Tucker Carlson, but a female superhero. They have the Vought Network, which is absolutely Fox. And there's a guy that absolutely was Sean Hannity. You have, deep into everything. I mean, she starts off one of her shows talking about Jewish space lasers. And it's like, okay, so you literally mixed Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, and that's his character.
Yeah.
You have gone way in on Homelander being Trump. You have, like, everything is, like, good. And now, mind you, I am 100% on board with the message.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so, like, it's too much. It's too much.
It's overboard.
Like, everything about the Vought Network and the Seven, which is the ultra-conservative, everything is, like, super religion now, too. It's, like, God and religion and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, God damn, dude. Like, have a little, have a little vague sense of it. Like, you kind of did in the first, but it's, like, now it's so in your face that it's, like, It is everything that the conservatives complain that isn't happening as far as an anti-propaganda against them. This is what they're saying shit is what this show is doing. And it's like, dude, have a little, like, I mean, once again, I love the message. I just think they're going too much billboard flashing.
Yeah.
This is the message.
Well, from what I understand, it's that everybody knew that Homelander was Orange Bastard this whole time. But now they're like, oh, okay, now everybody knows. We're not going to have there be that, like, thin veneer of metaphor. This is just a straight one-to-one now, where, like, he goes on trial or something in this season, or...
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
And, like, it's got... There's only one episode that I truly liked, and it's Jack Quaid his dad is Simon Pegg.
Yeah, I've heard about this, yeah.
And his mom is estranged because she left them when he was young. And his dad has a stroke, and he made his ex-wife, who he hated, the power of attorney, because he knew that his son would not be able to make the tough decision of just letting him die. So he gave it to the mother because he's like, she's estranged from us. She has no real connection to me. So I feel that she would follow through with my wishes. Well, Jack ends up getting this compound that's been the thing throughout the whole show, Compound V, which was injected into children, which gave them superpowers and created these superheroes.
Yeah.
But this compound is like a steroid for superheroes, but it can also give normal people like limited superpowers.
Yeah, they've done this in Marvel and DC a million.
Yeah, it's kind of like
times.
it's super serum, pretty much.
Yeah, well, it's super serum. It's there have been superhero doping scandals in Marvel and DC that basically there's so many drugs that like turn you into a metahuman for a certain amount of time. I mean, like, this is old hat.
It's very old hat. But anyways, it gets injected into Simon Pegg, who's literally dying, and they have to unplug him, and he's like starving to death because he's in a coma. Comes back to like 100% healthy, comes back to life, and the episode is like Jack Quaid trying to deal with his mother and interacting with her now that he's an adult, and she left him when he was like 6. And so he's like mad at her. He's mad that his dad gave her power of attorney, and Simon Pegg's trying to explain to him why he did it. And then throughout the episode, you could tell something's not right with Simon Pegg. And his memory starts to go because his brain was destroyed in the stroke. And this Compound V kind of brought him back enough that he could, like, he was normal for a little bit, and then he starts to go, but then he also starts to, so he's having like a dementia moment, but then these limited superpowers start to appear, which is him being able to move through walls. And he's like running through the hospital confused, and then he'll reform, like there's a guy having a conversation with a nurse, and he reforms right in the middle of the guy, so the guy like explodes because he's like forming solid in the middle of this. So that's gross, but it's like watching that, him, like Simon Pegg was great in that episode, like going through this confusion of, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am. And then it ends up ending where Jack Quaid finally has to kill his father and let him go because he's sad and confused. He doesn't know what's going on, and he's killing people without knowing it. And it was a really strong episode. But other than that, everything else has been dog shit.
Yeah, no. I everything I've heard this season is that hardcore fans are upset, and middling fans are kind of like, I don't get it. I don't get what the point of the show is anymore. So I'm not sad that I've always skipped The Boys. It's too morbid for me, and it doesn't actually present anything interesting. You know, like I said, mutant growth hormone has been a thing in Marvel for a while, you know, so like I don't know what you think you're achieving by having evil Superman who's Trump. I don't know what you think you're achieving by having the Flash, this version of the Flash, or the Deep, or, you know, like, all of it is just so tawdry to me. It's so surface level that it's not a metaphor for anything. And if it is, it's like, oh, what if Batman was bad? What if Batman was a sex-crazed maniac? And it's like...
The funny thing about that, and we've talked about this in the past, what we'd like to have seen in the Flashpoint with the different Thomas Wayne, Jeffrey D. Morgan has a character in this season. And he's awesome. He's, like, I would say, other than Simon Pegg, he's the only awesome, but he is literally playing... I don't know if you ever saw the movie Rampage with The Rock.
I did not.
He plays, like, this CIA agent.
Yeah, he's the government stooge.
It literally is the same character,
yeah,
but he swears more.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. And it's a nice little twist with this character, you find out, too. But he's real. Like, I love him as an actor, and I wish he would be in more things.
Well, it's still the funniest thing in the whole damn world to me that DC had Zack Snyder set up this whole thing, and then they did 8 years of rewrites on Flashpoint. And when they got to the end of all those rewrites, they were like, you know what would be better than Thomas Wayne, which makes a lot of sense, especially since Jeffrey Dean Morgan was in the universe already as Thomas Wayne? Batman from the Burton era. Makes no fucking sense, but hey, it'll get everybody in the crowd to come and cheer and be excited, except, oh wait, this wasn't the premiere of that. Batgirl was the premiere of that, and they got rid of that.
Yep.
So I just have to ask, what's the fucking point of any of this?
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. So I'm going to finish my long spiel. I had warned you. I had a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you got like 3 weeks of backed up.
I watched Axel F, which is the fourth Beverly Hills Cop movie that's now on Netflix. A little backstory. My 9th birthday, so this is 39 years ago, my grandpa took me to see Beverly Hills Cop on my 9th birthday. Loved the franchise. First and second one. Third one, they tried to go a little more PG. I think it was PG-13, which that's an R-rated franchise, and luckily this one's R-rated. So I'm not a big fan of these. To me, they've only done it right really once with Blade Runner 2049, of having these franchises that are way, like, it's been, I think, it was 94. So, yeah, it's been 30 years since the last Beverly Hills Cop. Some of these ones, that, like, they just don't come out good. When they, like, another example of an Eddie Murphy one is Coming to America. That redo after 30 years, that thing was terrible. I couldn't even make it through that. This was enjoyable, though.
I'm glad to hear.
It wasn't perfect. It was funny. It had some great moments. For some reasons, people had an issue with, they brought back the songs from each movie and they put them throughout this movie, which to me I loved because it's great music.
You have to have that.
And, you had Pointer Sisters singing, doing the Neutron Dance and all that. He had all these great songs. It brought back a lot of old characters, which all worked great. The only one that was a little grinding was Bronson Pinchot as Serge. He was okay, but even that character from the first one, it's like, okay, he was funny in the first one. Second one, he started to grate on you. Third one, where he was an arms dealer, was like, all right. And now he's a real estate agent in Beverly Hills. You're like, okay, it was cool to see him, but it's like, all right. The only negative I would have about this is the main basis of this movie is Axel Foley's in Detroit. Billy, who is Judge Reinhold's character, is a private detective because he left the police department because he knew there were corrupt cops. And of course, the leader corrupt cop has to be Kevin Bacon because he's one of the bigs in it. And he's trying to get proof of this whole big conspiracy thing. And there was this cop that was killed by Kevin Bacon's crew, but then they were trying to pin it on this poor kid. and because the kid's uncle is a drug dealer, but the kid isn't. And so he's trying to prove his innocence. And, of course, the lawyer who's working with him is Axel Foley's estranged daughter.
Oh, okay.
So she gets in danger. Billy calls Axel. He flies to Beverly Hills, and then everything starts. So it's a lot of the same beats.
John McClane's his way through L.A.
Exactly. And it's it's a lot of the same beats from the older movies. But once again, it was great. I thought it was, it was funny in a lot of moments. The whole interaction between Axel Foley and his daughter, they really overdid it. It's like it slowed down a lot of scenes too much. Like it kind of reminded me of one of the criticisms you and I have when people in the middle of a conflict will all of a sudden start discussing the relationship.
Yeah.
Kind of had it with this, where it's like, all right, we're undercover and we're walking around this thing trying to find clues. We're going to talk about our estranged relationship as father and daughter. And it's like,
now? Right now?
They just did it way too much.
Yeah.
And it's like the scenes that don't have that, where it's, either interactions between Axel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who, of course, is the former boyfriend of his daughter, and he's a cop, and so it brings all that in, and it kind of cites some cliches. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt was really good in it, and his interactions with Eddie Murphy were great, and, just bringing back some of the old beats were kind of fun. Kevin Bacon hams it up, but he was good. Kevin Bacon is a bad guy.
Yeah.
In a direct-to-Netflix movie. So
you
you're
can
not
do worse
expecting,
than that.
Yeah. It's not as bad as R.I.P.D. That was the worst Kevin Bacon. But I got to say, I mean, it's not a great movie. I would give it probably a solid B. It's fun. It's something that I would say, it's on Netflix, it's free. If you want to watch something fun, doesn't have any, nudity. It has a decent amount of violence at the end, which was very reminiscent to the first movie. Because if you remember the first movie, it doesn't have a ton of violence, but that end shootout at the mansion, which this is an end shootout at a mansion, you're like, oh, okay, that's a lot of the beats, but it was pretty bloody. And this has got some good, headshots and, good blood splatter and all that. It is a very fun, and then the final scene is an awesome callback to the very first movie, and it is a whole lot of fun. So I really know it sounds like I love this movie more than I did, but I give it a solid B.
Yeah. How many bananas made it into tailpipes?
No bananas, but that's the scene I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where you have Taggart, who is I can't remember the actor's name, but he is the original. He's old as hell. He's the police commissioner now. But it's him and Billy sitting in the car, and then Axel gets in the back and as a surprise thing. And that was fun. I was like, okay, and Eddie Murphy, you can tell physically he's as old as he is, but goddamn, he still looks like he's in his 40s.
Nice.
It's unbelievable. It truly is unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't have anything for or against Eddie Murphy. I find him a fascinating character more than anything else. But you throw out that many bad movies, it's like Adam Sandler. After a while, you just start feeling bad for them. You're like, okay, guys, I know that it's tough out there, and you got to write something that's not terrible, but come on. I know you got it in you. Come on.
Well, he is definitely a victim of somebody who got way too big, way too fast.
Yeah.
Because he did, I want to say, was it Raw? Not Raw. Delirious, I think, was his first stand-up, the recorded one where he's in the purple, leather suit. Mm-hmm. I want to say he was only 17 or 18 when he made that.
Yeah.
So he was a monumental star before he was 20.
Well, and you think of how fast his star took off. Ernie Hudson's character was supposed to be Eddie Murphy, but he got too big before they could make Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's right.
So it's like that's how fast they were writing a character for him, and by the time they were ready to shoot the thing, he was already too big and too busy to be this fourth wheel on the car, and so they just went on without him.
Well, think about this. When I just had to double check my math, when they started shooting the very first Beverly Hills Cop, he was 22 years old. Mm-hmm. Think about that shit.
Yeah.
As a 22-year-old having this massive film, and he had already made 48 Hours before that, and it's like, God, I can't imagine being that young and being the biggest star in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time he was 25, he was the biggest star in the world.
Oh, yeah. No, he's legendary. Yeah.
But that's all I got to say.
I'm going to do a quick hit, and then we're going to bring in Kelly.
Yes.
My quick hit is Time Bandits. I don't want to give anything away because the ending is actually crazy.
This is the first time you've seen it?
This was the first time I'd seen it.
Really? The ending is batshit.
The ending is out of this. Like I had it spoiled not like 12 hours earlier, which was why I finally decided to watch it.
Okay.
Because this has been on my watch list for a while. So this was finally like, okay, well, if that's the craziness of the ending, then, you know, I got to see this firsthand and get the context for it. And I got the context for it. I was like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. It was an interesting movie. It was always fun to go into a Gilliam movie without knowing it's a Gilliam movie. And you're just kind of like floating along and you're like, yeah, this is weird. And it gets weirder and weirder. And you're like, huh, okay. And then Kelly looks it up and it's, oh, yeah, of course it's a fucking Gilliam movie. Of course it is.
Yeah.
That's why so many Monty Pythoners are here.
Dude, this cast is ridiculous.
It's insane.
Ridiculous.
It's insane. And it's that weird middle ground of, are there any heroes in this story? I guess the kid he's not even a hero. He's just kind of there for the ride. He gets jerked around by these dwarves. There's all this back and forth nonsense and craziness. All the pseudo-religion that isn't religion but is religion.
And the visual style is so Gilliam.
So, and it's just interesting watching Terry Gilliam make a kids movie, because there's nothing in this movie that you couldn't show kids. But like
the
ending's weird.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Like, that might freak my kids out to see that as the final scene of the movie.
Well, like, the thing that I didn't understand is the event happens. I don't want to ruin it. The thing happens, and the boy is surrounded by people, and nobody reacts to it.
No.
And so I'm just like, did it happen? Is it still happening? Did it not happen? I'm deeply confused. But that's Gilliam. You know, that's what you get when you watch a Gilliam movie. We watched the man who killed Don Quixote.
Oh yeah.
And that was another one where I just got most of the way through and I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is fucking crazy pants. What the hell is this nonsense? Yeah. So, always interesting to watch Terry Gilliam stuff. I gotta go back and watch Brazil for the first time since I saw it.
I would say his most coherent and maybe only coherent movie is 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, and that's still... It's still
a little out there, but like, I love, even, you know, my favorite of his is The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, but even that's a weird movie, but I love it still.
No, yeah. So, but the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to bring in Kelly now, is we had an adventure and are currently in the middle of an adventure with the other counter programming for the boys, My Lady Jane, which is also on Amazon.
Oh, it's so good.
It's very entertaining. It is historical fiction with a capital fiction.
with a large star for a disclaimer.
Yes. So this is I have to set it up in the manner in which we walked into it.
Yes.
So Kelly had heard about this show. Kelly watches the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm walking the dogs. I come back. Kelly pauses it. She's like, I'm really enjoying this. I'm going to pause it. And then we're going to finish it together. I'm like, cool, great, whatever. We pick it up. We start it over again. It's the story of Lady Jane Grey, who is a historical character that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And so they have this whole preamble going over, like, this is who she is, this is what happened to her, this is the raw deal that she got because she's a woman in the era of King Henry VIII. So, like, of course she got a raw deal. None of that fucking matters.
Yeah. This is not that.
We're going to change...
What if history were different?
We're going to change the story. So basically this is a woman that came to power as the queen after Henry's son died.
Yeah, she claimed like a technicality, and it was somewhere between her doing this, but also her family and the family she married into were both kind of pushing her into this. So she was technically queen for like a week, and then she got beheaded.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah. The usual England in that era, 1500s.
Yeah.
And so the narrator tells this whole story and then is like, but we're not telling that story because that's a boring story and it sucks.
And we're like, oh, cool, okay.
All right, cool. So this is going to be historically fiction. This is going to be what happens if she didn't get killed. Okay, cool. So we're riding along. We're having fun. We're doing this thing. She's, it's the usual song and dance.
Incoming spoilers for anyone who wants to watch the show.
She is going to be married off to this rich relative that is taking care of the family while the dad's been dead. And, she doesn't want to do it, so she's going to get married off into another family, and so she's like, fuck this noise, I'm going to run away.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to bring my, my handmaiden.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt my maid who's having sex, and I'm going to insist that she comes with me, and we're going to run out into the woods, and then Mom appears, and this was where Kelly paused this show and was like, okay, I'm going to watch this with Alfred. So we're both sitting here and we're like, okay, cool, great, caught up. The handmaiden turns into a hawk.
And flies off.
There's just no other way to put it. She just turns into a hawk.
And we're like, whoa!
Wait a minute! Hang on! You said revisionist history. This is not revisionist history. So there's this quick moment where the narrator's like, oh, and I forgot to tell you.
Funny story, by the way.
This
There's magic.
This isn't just revisionist history. This is alternative history.
Oh my God.
Where there are these people, the poor people of England are these people that can't, they turn into animals because of their biology.
Yeah.
It's like some kind of weird thing where it's passed down, kind of like the mutant gene.
Yeah.
Except they just turn into one animal. And so they have a lower class system, and they forced all of these people into the woods. And King Henry's whole thing was that he wanted to kill as many of these people as possible, and so now that's become the mission of his children.
So we're giving this fictional story a little scapegoat.
Yeah,
kinda.
literally at times.
Yes.
There's a guy that shows up to steal stuff, and he turns into a goat to run off at one point.
Yeah. So we have watched the first 4 episodes
Yes.
so far. It is really fun.
It's really fun. There is definitely a break point when that happens, where it's like being in the ocean and having a giant wave crash over you. You have to kind of get over what just happened and move on, because this is what the entire show is going to be for the rest of the show. And it just keeps on ratcheting up, where we meet characters and later on they're revealed to be part of this race, the Ethians. And so it's like you have the Verity and the Ethians, and the Verity are the high class normal people, and the Ethians are the animal people. And some of them can control their powers, some of them can't. It seems to be connected to things, but it's such a fascinating show, because you're going along, and then all of a sudden these weird left
magic,
turns will happen.
By the way.
And you're just like, huh, okay, right.
Yeah. But the way it's written is really fun.
It is very fun.
There are so few recent works of art in various forms that use modern music in a more historical setting and have it work. So like Great Gatsby did not work. This show, it's working pretty well.
It reminds me of Bridgerton.
Yeah, it's a lot of like covers of classic rock songs by female-led rock groups.
Well,
which kind of rules.
My reaction was, I wish, since we were already so far into whatever this new genre is, I don't even know what you would call it at this point. Historical fantasy. Have a house band that acts as a Greek chorus that just follows along the plot and plays all the covers.
It's so fun.
But like the characters only acknowledge it in those quiet moments in between scenes. I like The Emperor's New Groove, when Cusco starts talking to the narration, and it's just like some acknowledgement, sure, but otherwise no one ever talks about it.
Yeah, the narrator continues on through the whole show, which is very interesting. It's an interesting touch.
And it's also interesting because the narrator appears at the start to be telling the story from Jane's perspective.
Yeah.
But his perspective also changes.
Yeah.
To the point where we can hear what other characters are thinking and feeling.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if they're going to do a reveal of who the narrator ends
That's
up
what
being.
I'm wondering if this is going to be an Into the Woods type situation.
Yeah.
I will say it does have that thing that has started driving me crazy, where the main character is given everything she wants.
Oh, God.
And she's like, no, I can't. And it's like, Jesus Christ, you found the perfect person for you who is going to give you everything you want.
Who married you for not the worst reasons.
Who is giving you, like, it's like if House, the doctor, was given the ultimate medical problem, and he was like, I can't even with this. And it's like, but this is like your whole thing.
Yeah.
This is like your whole thing. Why are you angry and upset and frustrated all the time? Just like look around and understand that you won the lottery of life. You get this basically baby Henry Cavill who has this medical ailment, and you're the only person that can help with it. This is everything you could ever want. And you're like, no, I can't do it.
Oh my God.
Oh, man. It's also similar to a lot of shows kind of in this like genre or vibe. very sex positive show.
Yes.
Oh.
A lot of scenes of specifically the women receiving the pleasure, which I am not opposed to.
Although there was that one scene of MILF blowjob. Yeah. There's
oh boy.
There's a
MILF blowjob.
There's a scene of codpiece selection.
Oh.
So that's fun.
There's a lot of scenes of Dominic Cooper going through his own S&M phase. With Mary Queen of Scots.
I believe that with Dominic Cooper.
Yeah.
That whole relationship is so fascinating to watch.
It's just these two crazy people being crazy.
Yeah.
And then they add sex into it as another thing on top of everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
And then there's also animal people. I cannot stress this enough. Someone will just suddenly turn into a cat and you're like,
I guess this is here.
sure, I guess. Yeah.
But it's really fun. I'm very excited to see how the rest of the show goes.
We just hit the big twist. So now we're gonna go downhill from here.
Yes.
Not literally, but
we've gotten back to this varies from history a little different to an actual historical thing.
Yeah,
that
we're back
happened, but now
well, we still have the other. We have plot A and plot B, and plot A is the historical stuff, and she's dealing with being queen, and then plot B is the fantasy stuff, and you're just like, where's this going? This is weird and fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's see how this goes.
But it's been very fun.
It has been. I've very much enjoyed it. And thank you for joining us.
Yes,
Of
thank
course.
you.
Did you have any other thoughts on Lady Jane that you wanted to share?
I'm all good. I know you have a lot coming
Yeah,
up. So
Jim Broadbent shows up as a man of many maladies,
yeah, a lot of character actors, which is really fun.
but a very good cast. I will also say.
Oh my god, such
really,
a good
really
cast.
good cast. And like again, similar to Bridgerton, they're casting whoever's best for the role, not necessarily these two people because they look alike or whatever.
I got you.
They're casting correctly.
Yeah. So the current King Edward, who is Jane's cousin, is a black guy, which freaking rules.
Queen Elizabeth I is a black woman. So it's like, all right, I dig this.
It's really fun.
And they still use the costume so you can still tell who is who.
Yeah.
And then you have Mary Queen of Scots wearing King Henry's robe while spanking Dominic Cooper with a knight's glove. So, you know,
it's so good.
it goes all over.
Sounds interesting.
So anyway, we'll continue to cover that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly,
Nice.
for joining us.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
And then I just wanted to finish off by saying that I started playing Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was making me very happy.
Yes.
And I was enjoying it for a hot second.
Yes.
And then Kelly reminded me that I have a job to do.
Yes. Which, unfortunately, we will get into that in a second. I want to bring up two quick things to finish and just get your ideas on. First off, over these last couple weeks, there was another Blade casting issue.
I think Mahershala Ali's leaving.
I think he is too because I'm assuming he had a bigger role in it because he's not a small actor, but Delroy Lindo is gone from the Blade movie. So it's like...
Man, he would have been a good Whistler.
That's what I'm wondering if he was. And it's like, dude, you're starting to lose so much.
Yeah.
I still don't know if this movie will come out. And now they're talking about potentially them doing a Marvel zombie movie before the Blade movie comes out. And Blade will actually make his introduction in the Marvel zombie movie.
That's fucking dumb.
It's so dumb. Like this.
That doesn't make any
Everything
fucking
is so
sense.
dumb right now with this.
That's so fucking insane.
Yeah.
Why? But why? But why?
2019, he's introduced as Blade, and they have not shot a single bit of film.
Nope.
And
they can't even write the damn thing. It's not even that they haven't shot it yet. They can't write the fucking
And
thing.
keep a director.
Like, what the hell? And I'm looking at The Flash, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at Aquaman 2, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at Wonder Woman 2, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, tell me that this isn't going to be more of this. Because either this movie isn't happening, or it's going to be a full-on train wreck when it gets here.
Speaking of that, for those of you who don't know, my favorite superhero is Superman.
Yes.
And Christopher Reeve Superman, the original movie, plays a huge part in my life. I think it's not only a great superhero movie, I think it's amazing cinema. That being said, I hated Man of Steel because it's dog shit. I never, as much as I love Henry Cavill, I liked his Superman. I thought his Clark Kent was terrible. And to me, that's as much an integral part of the role as Superman is. In fact, it's more of an important
I was
part
about
of
to
the
say,
role
if
to me.
not more.
So the whole James Gunn reboot of Superman had me concerned but cautiously optimistic because he has done good things, he's done bad things, as being James Gunn. And they're showing the set. There's some rumors coming out, and they're showing pictures from the set of the movie being filmed. Mm-hmm. As far as Superman's outfit, I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it at all. I honestly wish they could have done something. To me, I think the best Superman outfit was Brandon Roth's, because it takes the iconic one, but it takes away that spandexy look, but it still looks like the iconic Superman suit. Henry Cavill's, it was okay. This one, I don't really like it. The S is not very pronounced. I mean, it's fucking Superman. Make the S look like an S, make it look pronounced.
It
It's
looks
kind of
more like a diagonal line.
yeah, it's
than an
like a
S.
diagonal line. I don't like the lines on the suit where it's.
Why does his suit have padding?
I don't understand.
Why
that
he's
either.
Superman?
He's Superman.
Why does his suit have padding?
Yes.
That is one thing that I saw, and I was like, weird flex. Why would you do that? I
mean,
don't get it.
Christopher Reeve spent like a year in the gym working with Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger and other bodybuilders to bulk himself up to fit in that suit without padding.
Yeah.
You don't need to have padding.
No.
Brandon Roth didn't have padding in his suit. It's just that the suit was a little thicker material.
Henry Cavill didn't have padding in the
Henry
suit.
Cavill didn't have fucking padding in his suit.
No.
And then let's call, for right now until they change whatever the name is, let's call him the new Justice League. You have Guy Gardner, a.k.a. Nathan Fillion, as Green Lantern. You have Mr. Terrific.
That's
you have
Guy
Hawk
Gardner?
Girl. That's Guy Gardner.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No. So the three of them.
That is shit.
Yeah.
Holy garbage, Batman.
But they decided to make the costumes like identical, except for the coloring.
Yeah.
And it looks awful.
The Mr. Terrific costume is awesome. This isn't a superhero action figure where you need to make sure that the models are all the same and then you just paint them differently.
Yes.
This isn't the 80s. Guy Gardner has a look, and it's not this. Also, nobody asked you to do Guy Gardner. All of us wanted you to do Hal Jordan.
Yes.
Because Nathan Fillion
Yes.
has been Hal Jordan for over 20 years.
Yes.
So
I don't
why
get it.
does he have a mullet? Why does he have the worst blonde wig I've seen since fucking Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
No, wait, that's not true. Since Acolyte. Episode 3.
Thank you.
Why does Hawkgirl look awful?
Yes.
Also looks terrible. The helmet's all wrong. The eyepieces are wrong. I can imagine her having wings, and it doesn't help everything else that I'm looking at here. The colors are wrong. The Guy Gardner has a vest. Like, that's his whole thing, is that he has a vest. All right? So this is not a jacket. It's a vest. I just don't get it. Why go through all this trouble?
And looking at this set picture, it might be a vest he's wearing. And
No,
he has
they're
the black
these
sleeves.
These sleeves, if they're not attached, they're supposed to give the illusion that it's all one piece.
Oh, I got you.
But even if it's not, you
Yeah.
have to emphasize it better than this shit.
My biggest concern, though,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't even tell you about the second set. Okay, so let's talk about the first set photo. This is the one I haven't told you about. There is a picture of a squirrel in a glass case.
Okay.
There's a squirrel character of the Green Lanterns.
Yeah. Zippy, or whatever his name is.
So everyone's saying this is probably Zippy the squirrel.
Yeah. Let me get his actual name.
So you have the squirrel, and then there's a picture of a dog that looks a lot like Crypto. And since Chris Pratt has been on set for a lot of the filming so far, a lot of people are saying either he's going to be playing a character in the DCU or he's going to be voicing Crypto.
I'm so sorry. Not Zippy. Chip.
Chip.
So far off.
But it's like, okay, so what is the tone of this fucking movie? If you're going to have Crypto and Chip,
Yeah.
the Green Lantern
See,
squirrel.
I don't mind having Chip because I love the Green Lanterns. One of my favorite things about the Green Lanterns is just this idea that people I've heard on some Dropout shows that the Green Lanterns is the most alien force in science fiction.
Oh, I believe it.
Because like you look at Star Wars or Star Trek, they look vaguely human and then they have something on their face.
Yes.
The Green Lantern Corps is bonkers.
Yes.
So
very
I'm
much.
I'm totally down to have Chip in here. I think that would be fun. It'd be like Rocket.
But it's the tone. It's
yeah.
like, it's by having those two characters, it's like, how goofy are they going to make
Well,
this?
especially with having Crypto voiced by Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
It's not like Crypto has a voice where he talks to Superman in every iteration. Crypto is usually just a dog. It'd be like having Ace the Bat Hound, and he's going to have a voice, and he's going to be Kevin Hart, and it's going to be that Super Pets movie, but not that. No, I don't fucking get this.
I don't either. And I'm very concerned now for this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I am more concerned now.
Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
Like, we're so far off.
Oh, that's night and day difference. But I'm super nervous, and I was very much. They have a release date. It's July of next year. It is actually like a confirmed release date, not on a poster and everything.
Yeah, well, this is also Discovery Warner Brothers, so we'll see if that confirmed release date doesn't change to suddenly being late next year and then suddenly early the year after that.
Dude, I'm so nervous.
I'm just looking at this, and I'm just... What part of this am I supposed to hang my hat on?
I'm so nervous.
Am I supposed to be excited that you have Metamorpho in here? That would be great if I thought you were going to do it well, but I have no reason to think that you're going to do it well.
And like Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, I'm on board with that.
That's fine.
I'm totally cool with that.
There are much better castings that you could have done.
Absolutely, but it's not Jesse Eisenberg, so I'm fucking happy with it.
It's fine enough. But, like, honestly, the thing that has done more damage than anything else to my faith is having James Gunn at the head of this, because Guardians 2,
yes,
Guardians 3, Guardians the Christmas special. Do I need to say anything more?
Yes.
Why would I have faith in him? Because he made a halfway decent Suicide Squad movie compared to the absolute trash Suicide Squad movie, which I want to emphasize is still not as good as either animated Suicide Squad movie.
Oh, absolutely.
This is what I'm saying.
Attack on
Arkham, even Hell to Pay is more interesting than anything in James Gunn's. Like, yes. Oh, you had Starro. Ooh, wow. You also had not Deadshot for some reason.
Yeah.
So, like, and you had an entire troop that you killed off at the beginning, which nobody could have ever seen coming. And it's just, why would I trust you? I don't have any reason to trust you, man.
And it's like the trust is gone.
It's gone.
Over this last week. And it's kind of depressing, because I was really hoping for a good... We have not had a good Superman movie really since Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve. Because as much as I like Brandon Roth's character, I didn't like that movie.
The plot of that movie is stupid.
Because the plot's terrible. I hated the whole, oh wait, Lex Luthor, we gotta do Land again, because it's... And I did not like Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane. I never liked her as that. Brandon Roth, the only thing I really liked about that movie, and like the... Even Marie Saint as his mom, she was awesome too. Like I enjoyed that. Never liked any of the Henry Cavill Superman ever. Like not one thing with him as Superman did I enjoy.
I liked Henry Cavill Superman until the fall of Metropolis, and then that became like this thing where it's like, okay, now you're going in this crazy direction that Marvel would never go in, so I'm going to give you credit where that is, but at the same time, it's so fully different. Like, my favorite, I think I've said this on the show, my favorite moment for Superman is from the Justice League animated TV show. It's from the finale, and Superman is fighting Darkseid, because this is DC. Of course he's fighting Darkseid. Basically, Darkseid is making fun of him for caring, and Superman... is or no, he's making fun of him for not being strong enough, and Superman is like, you don't fucking get it. I live in a world of cardboard. I have to be careful all the time.
Yeah.
So you giving me a chance to cut loose, not going to be an issue. And it's just like, that is one of my favorite moments, is just Superman landing and being like, I live in a world of cardboard. I have to be careful all the time. No one has done that. And then Zack Snyder comes along and he's like, yeah, he lives in a world of cardboard, and he burns it all to the ground. I'm like, wait, whoa, hang on, whoa, pump the brakes.
Yeah. You know, my criticism of every Superman since then also, what made the original so great, and I've talked to some blue in the face, is that first movie had heart. That's the thing with Superman. Superman is hope. He's everything we want to be. He's everything we hope to be. You know, he's kind, and he helps, and he's gentle, but he can, you know, be strong when he needs to. And that fucking line that still gets me to this day, where he's talking to his mom and says, No matter all my powers and all the things I can do, I couldn't save him because my dad had a heart attack, and that's something I can't fix.
Yep.
That right there, I don't know where that's going to come from in this movie, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Well, it's not, because everything's going to be a joke.
It is, that's what irritates me.
That's the feeling that I'm getting from looking at this. Everything is going to be a goddamn joke.
Because I'll even compare that first Superman movie to Captain America: The First Avenger. Mm-hmm. That movie, it had some humor, but it had you had that hope and that love for that character because he made you feel he's so good, and he can be hurt and he can go through these heartaches, but he makes you feel, gives you hope and makes you feel like you could do anything, and that's been missing. It's
all about that moment when Steve's in the alley, not the moment where he grabs the trash can lid, although we all love that. It's the moment right after that where he gets knocked down. He gets up, and the guy's like, "Why are you doing this? Just stay down." He's like, "I can do this all day."
Yep.
Cut to the Red Skull. "I can do this all day. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn."
Yeah.
And it's like, God, this is why I love you.
This is why I love you. There was an interview with Chris Evans the other day, and he said his favorite Marvel movie is still The Winter Soldier, because he feels like they were still taking chances on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God bless you, Chris Evans. I love you.
They didn't have a formula that they had to stick to.
Yes.
And I do feel like this smacks of the Marvel formula.
Oh, yes.
Of when in doubt, make it funny. Never have it be too serious. Make it look kind of like the comic books, but not really.
Yes.
And give it like one souped up character that everybody's going to get excited for. Because Mr. Terrific looks amazing.
He does.
He looks so good.
He does.
And then everything else around him, I'm like, ugh, but why does Superman have knee pads?
I don't know. Like, I'm so concerned
Superman
about
could put in floors for the entire United States and never have to have knee pads on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
I don't get it either. All right, folks, so we got to move on. We got to end our show, unfortunately, by talking about episodes 5 and 6 of The Acolyte.
Strap in.
Episode 5 it's the best episode, easily, of the series.
Are you fucking kidding? You're out of your goddamn
mind.
No.
But to think about the other episodes, that is the lowest of the lowest bars.
No. This is one of the worst episodes of the series. This is...
With the lightsaber battles?
Oh my god. Steven... Are you fucking kidding me right now?
But here's the thing. For them fighting with the lightsabers, there was no dialogue, so I couldn't be like...
Oh, yeah!
No, it wasn't good.
The fighting with the lightsabers, where the guy suddenly has this material that is the same as me when I was an 11-year-old having lightsaber battles with my friends, and we would say, no, I'm wearing Jedi armor.
Yes,
your lightsaber doesn't affect me. And then he bumps it, and the glass kind of crystal thing gets out of place. Oh, I gotta shake it, and then it's gonna turn back on. And then, Plo Koon just full killed. Right in the face! Right in your face!
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. It's him. This isn't the first time we've seen Plo Koon killed. I want to emphasize, he dies in the Clone Wars. We see him on screen die. So, like, I'm sorry. What the fuck are we talking about? And then my favorite line, you might call me a Sith. Oh yeah. Might? So you're not a Sith. I just want to make sure that I understand, because I feel like I'm losing something in translation in this weird, crazy version of Star Wars that you've cooked up. So he's not a Sith, but he has all the rules of a Sith, except that he has none of the rules of a Sith.
Yeah.
He just has the desires of a Sith without any of the coda of a Sith.
And that's the thing is, and let me preface this before you went on your rant, I couldn't quite get this out. I'm not saying this is a good episode. I'm not saying I enjoyed this episode. By me saying I think this is the best episode is because there may have been one or two moments during the fight scene where the choreography was well done that I didn't say I want to shoot myself in the eye. Every episode I've seen before that has had me saying that the entire episode. This was still terrible.
I think the first episode is the best episode just because you don't know how bad it's going to get.
Oh, no, I hated it right from the start.
No, listen, I understand, but in the same way as what you're saying, the atrocities committed in the first episode compared to how things escalate from there and devolve is righteously bad.
So I guess we need to unlock the worst reveal in potentially the history of anything ever put onto
Jake Jordals was the bad guy the whole time?
Yes!
And we joked about this. We said, that's stupid, but this show is stupid, so they could end up doing that.
Oh, yeah. And it was like, as soon as he took the mask off and they made it like this dramatic thing, we're like, I think even the people who were fans of the show were like, yeah.
Duh.
We knew exactly who the fuck it was. It was Agent Ezra Miller. It was...
She says, I'm going to betray my master. And he says, don't do that.
Don't do that.
And she says, I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden, the guy shows up and has already killed the Wookiee.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with this idiot.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't make sense, but it is. That's the thing.
Dude's jacked.
He is.
Good
for him. Hey, listen, they made him look attractive. This is the Kylo Ren playbook. If you have a bad character who has no plot and is dumb, have him take off his shirt, have hair in his face so he looks like a handsome, pretty boy, and then just have that be his whole thing.
Which I do love his nickname online, Smilo Ren.
Yeah.
Because of the smiling... I think that
and
is
then
the
we have
greatest
that. We haven't
nickname
even
ever.
talked about that yet.
Oh, the smiley mask?
Oh my... The whole of it. The whole of the costume is terrible.
To me, it looked like they wanted the look of... If you remember at the end of Return of the King, when the mouth of Sauron comes out.
Yeah, but the mouth of Sauron is horrifying to look at.
It is, but like when the mouth is closed and it just has the blank eyes from top up and then the smile. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah,
that
but
they saw that and they're like, we want to do that.
But it's a
mask.
terrifying smile because the lips are decayed and pulled back.
Oh, no, it is.
And he has pointed, sharpened teeth.
I'm not saying they nailed it. I'm saying I could see them watching that, saying that's what we want to do, and then doing a bad fucking version of that.
If that's the case, then we have a lot more to worry about because that is such a dumb way to go about achieving that goal. So if that was what they were doing...
Most of this show, they're like, oh, I saw this somewhere, let's do that, and then they do it bad.
How much was I not looking forward to this? I want to walk through the procedure of the night. I was playing Guardians of the Galaxy. I was having a great time. I was enjoying myself. Kelly went to bed. I was like, let me go up to bed with you for a little bit. I'll say goodnight. I'll say goodnight to the boys. I'm sitting with Kelly. While I'm sitting with her, I have the realization that we are doing the show in the morning. That means that I have 2 episodes of The Acolyte that have to get done. Toot sweet. Which means I have to stop playing Guardians and start doing that. I didn't start watching Acolyte for another hour and a half because I found literally any excuse to not watch it. I did all my chores. One of our projects for this weekend, for Independence Day weekend, quote-unquote Independence Day weekend, was cleaning out our basement. And so I went down and started cleaning our basement again.
I believe it.
Because I didn't want to watch this fucking trash fire.
Yeah.
Kelly was like, you should stop watching it. I was like, we're so close. We're so close to being not watching this anymore.
See, that's the problem, is it has its finger so much in the zeitgeist at the moment that the only saving grace is that it's a typical Disney show, like half hour to 40 minutes.
No, not 40 minutes, because I looked, episode 5, the credits were more than 5 minutes long at the end of the episode.
The credits are insane!
It's like literally that much of the run bar. It's like a not insubstantial amount of the run bar is just the credits.
Every show I'm like, is there an end credit scene
What's
or
going
something?
on?
No.
How this show didn't feel like it had that many special effects in it. So why is this a thing? So Plo Koon gets killed right at the start.
Right at the start.
Right at the start. She wakes up. She's like, okay, this was the other thing. She wakes up, right? I finally sit down. I start the show. I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, okay, listen, I know you're frustrated. I know you don't want to watch this, but like, we got to give it an honest chance. We have to give it an honest chance. And as I think to myself, it's so easy to hate. You have to give it a chance. She falls, looks around and sees a dead Jedi and a bunch of skid marks on the ground, and then she looks over and Plo Koon dies, and I'm like, I'm trying so hard to give you a chance. I am trying so hard, and you just keep spitting in my face every time. I'm like, show me what you got. You're like, right in my eye, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah,
guys, like, you can't just the entire way that you're going about this makes no fucking sense, and it's infuriating.
Yeah,
because it's 100% revisionist history. You're just going through and wiping out old stuff and writing in new stuff, and it's maddening.
That's what they've been doing since Obi-Wan, though. I mean, it's like they rewrote the entire first movie,
but like they didn't change how the Force itself works.
No, they didn't change
this
that.
Is the actual function of the universe.
Oh yeah,
the actual sides in the universe. They're changing how things work.
Yes,
and it's so maddening.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh cool, you have X-23 wielding 2 lightsabers, and then getting fucking killed.
Yeah.
That was like, when Yor died, spoilers, I was like, thank you. Finally, something we can agree on is that Yor needed to die.
He absolutely needed to die.
He needed to be gone. I was done with him.
But once again, they take this character who, at the beginning, they make him out, he is a Jedi Master.
Yeah. He has a Padawan.
And he died, like, he's a bumbling idiot throughout the show, and he barely puts up a fight and gets his neck broken.
He immediately dies. Because these are the worst Jedis of all time.
Oh,
these are the worst Jedis of all time.
They're Stormtrooper Jedis.
Yes.
Because they can't hit anything, they can't fight.
They can't sense anything.
No.
To call them blind is to be offensive to blind people. Like, Matt Murdock could sense more things through the Force than these idiots can. Like,
sensing things is the thing.
It's a full fucking thing. Well, okay, so I'm going to point over here. This is our Metahuman Olympics.
Okay.
The bottom line is telepath telekinetic. There's 2 Jedis there because they can sense emotion.
Yeah.
Which is close enough to telepathy that you can kind of get the same power rank from it.
Yes.
These are the dumbest Jedi.
Oh, they're terrible.
You've ever seen. So dumb. So fucking dumb.
And the dumbest one is Saul, who's supposed to be one of the most powerful.
I didn't think he was dumb until episode 6, and then I was like, man, this guy's a fucking idiot.
But he actually mentions how dumb he was. It was episode 2 when they were on the planet and they first meet Smilo Ren when he's running the shop. Was that 2?
Yeah, that was episode 2.
That was episode 2. Where he's interacting with this powerful Sith Lord, has no idea.
No idea.
And he brings it up in episode 6 to himself, like, I'm such an idiot.
Well,
how did I not feel anything?
Not only that, apparently Smilo Ren knows Soul. Because he keeps on hinting that Soul did something to him.
Yes.
And so Soul knows this guy, has had some kind of emotional bond with this person, has met this guy on numerous occasions. Yes. You can give the argument that he's wearing this Jedi power armor helmet that supposedly is a sensory deprivation thing that allows him to block out everything but the Force.
Yes.
And that's why Soul can't get a read on him. But he's not wearing that stupid helmet when he's running the apothecary.
Yeah.
So what the fuck?
I don't get
what
that.
the actual fuck is going on?
I don't get that.
And I will never get over the line, you might call me a Sith. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
It seemed like this series is trying to play him off as the first Sith.
As a proto-Sith.
But we know that's not the case.
But that's not the case. And not only is it not the case, he doesn't follow the Sith code.
No.
So, like, if anything, you can tell that he's not a Sith because he wants a Padawan. You might have heard of it. Kind of a big deal. The rule of 2. Kind of a big deal in the Sith culture.
Yes.
Rule of 2. Okay? Talk to Count Dooku about the rule of 2. Okay? So you would have been a failed Sith, is what you're saying, because you want your own Padawan. So now you want the rule of 4, I guess is what you're saying. But also you've chosen 2 people that were born via the use of metachlorians. Again, this has happened before. And when it happened to Anakin Skywalker, he was the most powerful Jedi of all time because he was made out of metachlorians.
Yes.
And then you have these 2 idiots who can't do jack shit.
Yeah.
So either their metachlorian got split between the 2 of them, at which point I'm like, then why did you have them be an Immaculate Conception? Or they're just bad.
Yeah.
And you don't understand Star Wars. And we're talking about the biology of Star Wars, which I hate.
Yeah.
Which I hate. But you've still put us into this position because you keep on insinuating that that's where you're coming from.
And that's an annoying thing about May and Osha. They cannot use the Force like Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan TV show. But then all of a sudden they'll do a Force push.
They can, yeah.
Which is like a ridiculous Jedi, like super strong Force. It's like, how?
What?
How do you...
Well, and apparently Osha is the heaviest sleeper of all time.
Oh,
like Jesus fucking Christ, heavy sleeper.
2 episodes in a row, she's a heavy sleeper.
Yeah.
Because she starts episode 6 by being passed out because she falls down a tiny 2-foot little decline.
She falls off a decline, doesn't have a concussion.
No.
But is passed out for at least like 10 hours.
Oh, easily.
Like at least 10 hours minimum.
Yeah, so let's get into that. So at the very end, May and her get in this standoff because May, of course, from the episode before, she's ready to throw in the towel and give up everything to the Jedi. But then by the end of episode 5, she's like, fuck it.
Fuck that
I'm
noise.
bad again.
Yeah. Well, not only that, it becomes the Benny Hill show where everybody's just chasing May through the forest. And that's it. That's the entire episode, is just people chasing after May in the forest.
Yeah.
And May being like, oh, I gotta go. And then she stops and she looks around. Oh, and she sees one person and gets in a minor fight, and then I gotta go. And like every time Smilo Ren shows up, I gotta go. And it's just like this guy who's supposedly like this amazing fighter, which I want to also note, one of the reasons they say he's an amazing fighter is because he doesn't pay attention to the rules of combat.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that means in this context.
I don't get that at all.
So he can't just grab her, pull her up, lift her in the air, Magneto style, just be like, oh, you can't run now. Because he's this great Sith Lord.
Yeah.
But he gets carried off by a bunch of moths. Because he's a great Sith Lord.
Fucking moths.
Oh, wait, no. You might call him a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
You might not. I choose not to.
Then there were those two situations where he had Saul, and I think it was Yord. He had both of them on the ground and then just disappeared to go look for May instead of killing them.
Saul and Jackie.
Saul and Jackie.
Yord is an incompetent idiot. Jackie is shown to be this great warrior.
Yes.
And then she gets knifed.
But only after she refines him. And it's like, dude.
Yeah. And almost pulling off the exact moves as Anakin Skywalker when he gets his arm chopped.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost word for word, and then you're like, oh, but we're going to make this quick change at the end. And there were just so many moments in this where I was like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
We finally get a reason for the Pip droid.
Oh, God
named
damn it.
Pip. He gets to be plugged onto the back of Smilo Ren and carried off and then found and then rebooted. And we're all supposed to be like, oh, what's going to happen to Pip?
Oh, we're going to talk about episode 6.
What's going to happen to Pip? But like, so you get to the end of episode 5 and everybody's been split up. And so May does this big
haircut. Oh, that is the worst haircut with the lightsaber.
And I thought she was going to cut off her own head. I was like, what is happening right now?
It was the most overly dramatic, but then by a quick swipe with the lightsaber, her hair is
exactly the same as Osha's. Exactly the same as Osha's. God. With just one swipe of the lightsaber. You too can have the perfect haircut for this fall.
That was so cringe.
It's so bad. So bad. So she does a parent trap, and she swaps them out. And so now you have Osha's going with Smilo Ren, who knows that she's not May the whole time. Before she's even conscious, he knows that is not May.
Not Saul.
Not Saul. Saul. There were a lot of moments where I was like, please tell me you're going to realize.
Through the end of this episode, and through the entirety of episode 6 until the end,
he
has no idea.
No idea. No idea.
The worst fucking Jedi.
The worst fucking Jedi of all time. Like, the worst fucking Jedi of all time. And, like, then you have Basil, the muskrat.
I hate that
who
thing.
Gets so much screen time.
I hate that.
For no reason. Like, okay, so you think about it. So Basil runs off into the woods, right?
Yes.
And then Yord and Osha are following, trying to find Basil so they can all go back to the ship. And then Osha and Yord turn around and they go back.
Yes.
Basil picks up the Pip droid and sniffs it and gets a scent on it. And he's like, okay. And he starts following the scent. And he gets back on the ship, and he's still following the scent. And at this point, May has done the swap out. So now May and Sol are on the ship, and Basil is following May's trail because that's the only trail he could be following with everything that's happened. He doesn't at any point realize, like, hey, I'm on this ship, and we just took off, and Sol and Osha are the only people on this ship, but I smell May.
Yeah.
Let me continue my investigation. Oh my God. What?
I hate that thing.
And then he plugs in Pip so it can charge.
And yeah, he looks around. I don't
know. Oh, but there's a whole moment where he's like, how do I plug it in? I always get this wrong.
So before we go on with episode 6, because I have a lot to say about episode 6, you brought up a point of episode 5 that pissed me off so goddamn much. So Yord is taking Osha back to the ship because he has to take her back to the ship, and it gets to the third cutaway where she's like, he's gonna kill everybody, and that's where Yord's like, you know what? You're right. Let's go back.
Yeah, let's go back.
What the fuck did you think was gonna happen
and then
prior to that?
Immediately gets killed.
Oh my God!
Yord doesn't do anything in this episode except get fucking killed.
But that whole waste of time, to where Yord has no idea that This evil Sith Jedi is going to kill everybody. He thinks they're just going to have a conversation and then part
Or that the
ways.
Jedi are going to win when he's watched at least 3 Jedi get jacked by this person.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. My mission is to take you back to the ship. Soul gave me an order. And I'm just sitting here like, you are the worst Jedi.
That was the worst.
You are all the worst Jedis of all time.
Yeah.
Like any one of you. Just the absolute worst fucking Jedis of all time. Congratulations. I said that you weren't going to bring the moths back. You did. For reasons I don't even fully understand. Yeah. As a delaying tactic, I guess? And so we can have this Parent Trap swap out?
They spent a lot of money on that CGI character design. They just needed it in another scene.
It's just,
actually another 2 scenes.
Well, but they spent so much time on the prosthetics for Yord's Padawan. She's never going to be in this show again.
Or is... Oh, that's true. It's not her that's in the show again. It's Yeki. You get that nice close-up of her in episode 6 just to get the, like,
make sure that you know that she's dead.
Yeah, she's dead.
Really, really drive it home that she is truly dead. But you know what I really loved about that in episode 6? So often, there are moments where I am baffled as to how we get from one location to another. One of the nice things about Star Wars is that they use wipes to help indicate when you're moving from one place to another. So, they do that. But, you know, it's just so hard sometimes. You better put up the planet name just to make sure everybody knows where we are.
Yes.
Okay, we're on Kofar. Immediately get on the ship and leave Kofar. Why did you have an entire establishing shot with subtitles saying Kofar where everybody knows where Saul is right now? Nobody's confused by where Saul is. Only for him and May to take off immediately and leave Kofar. So they are no longer on Kofar. The best you can argue is that they are in the skies above Kofar, and then May takes them out into orbit. So they're no longer on Kofar. So why did you have an entire establishing shot and subtitles saying that they were on Kofar, which nobody was confused about, but did take up runtime? What is this bad, terrible filmmaking? This is the worst filmmaking I've seen in so long.
Well, and that's the thing about this episode 6. I have been super critical of the acting and the directing in this show, and this might be the worst as far as the acting side of it.
The acting's really bad.
It was so laughably bad.
I was more distracted by the terrible meal they were serving me than the acting and the directing, where like that kind of like fell into the whole of everything that was happening. But like every time we cut back to Basil, every time we cut back to Soul being fully fooled that this is Osha, every one of those moments I was just like, what is this bullshit? What is this bullshit? And then we find out, on top of all the other bullshit, Osha's job also bullshit. Yeah. Because even though the Trade Federation hired her because they don't like droids and they need someone to repair things without using astromechs, the droid is still the only thing that actually does the repair, and then she just uses her hands to actually do it. Yeah. But May has to repair something, and so what does she do? She factory resets Pip. Oh no! And now Pip has red eyes. Yeah. Oh, it's evil Pip now. That's so stupid. So the factory reset is the standard default is red eyes. That's what you're implying here. You said factory default, and now it has red eyes. So that's how it came. Yeah. So what you're saying is Osha went through the settings to find the eye color that she liked on the Pip droid, and then the Pip droid just tells May how to repair the thing on the ship.
That whole reboot scene.
Oh, and then the phones are down. Oh, the phones are down.
May has to fix this, and she goes and finds the Pip droid. And when she finds it, that little creature, what the hell's that? Basil finds her,
grabs her leg,
does a weird kung fu-like thing, grabs her leg, then kicks her in the shin and steals her flashlight.
And then runs away.
And then Pip makes the machine squirt oil in her eye because that's so silly! And then she goes, I'm gonna factory reset. And you can factory reset a droid in Star Wars like you do an iPhone.
Not even like you do an iPhone. An iPhone, you still have to go through menus.
Well,
this is like if you had a hard restart. And you just had to hold down the power button and the control button.
It's kind of like Control-Alt-Delete.
It's exactly like that.
Dude.
And it's
that
just like,
scene,
this show sucks.
I was so happy that I was mentally manipulated at that point because I'm like, I would find no joy in my life at this moment unless I
had a few last night
so bad
while watching it, and I'm just like, even this doesn't help.
Dude, it was
even
so
this doesn't
bad.
help. Even in this state, I can still look at this and tell you the 10 things you got wrong. Like, that's bad. That's really bad.
So then we got to get to Osha waking up on creatively titled Unknown Planet.
Well, is it unknown, or is it the planet that Luke Skywalker is on in The Last Jedi?
That has been verified by the showrunners that is not the case, but it was intentional.
It looks exactly like it.
That was an intentional move, they said.
Of course it was, because
But
they're
it's
terrible
not the same
filmmakers.
terrible
They're
filmmakers.
awful filmmakers. This planet looks exactly like Endor, which I know is a moon, not a planet, but it's not Endor. This planet looks exactly like Hoth, but it's not Hoth. There's nothing about it that distinguishes it in any way. And if you saw, there were so many moments where I was like, Jake Jordan is going to go milk one of those fucking seal cows, whatever you want to call it. And awful. But oh, wait, they didn't have porks. They had these weird little squidgy things instead.
Yes.
So that's how you know it's different.
Yes. That when they play dead, they look like rocks, so she didn't notice them. And Osha waking up and drinking a mystery liquid in the cave of... She doesn't know where the fuck she is because she was passed out. She doesn't even know who has her.
Yeah.
And then she walks out, and you see Smilo Ren walking, and then there's the thirst trap for the show.
Take off all of his clothes.
He pulls a Hemsworth,
Yeah.
takes off all his clothes to go swimming, and comes out and does the worst dialogue reading with the head turned, and his eyes are squinted, and he even has a little pouty lips as he's talking.
It's so Playboy. It's so
Dude.
like, just love me. I'm a lost little puppy who just needs to be healed. Oh, I am not in any way doing anything nefarious or gaslighting you at all.
No.
Oh, please fall for my trap. Oh, please fall for my trap.
And then they go from where she's holding his lightsaber, and he's like, "Oh, you have good technique." But then as he's coming out, she holds it as if she's like roasting a marshmallow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you going to comment on her shitty technique now? You just commented how good her technique was.
Yeah, this means nothing. This is garbage, man.
It was so fucking bad.
It's so bad. It was like watching someone, there's an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where the gang go through the trials of being pitched on a timeshare.
Yes.
This was exactly the same energy of just Jake Jordan is trying to sell Osha a timeshare. And the timeshare in this case is the Sith, which isn't the Sith. I want to emphasize this again.
You could call him the Sith.
You could call him the Sith.
Yes.
You wouldn't.
It's not
Because if you could call him the Sith, you would call him the
call him
Sith.
the Sith.
But the fact that you are now intimating that you only could means that he's not a Sith, but something kind of like a Sith, but distinct enough that it's not a Sith.
Yeah.
But like close enough that you can squint your eyes and be like, that's a Sith. And then you look close and you're like, oh, that's not a Sith.
Yeah.
That is orange and that's red. Look from a distance, it kind of looks like an orangey red. Then you get up close and you're like, oh no, that's orange and that's red. So not a Sith.
Yeah.
But basically a Sith without any of the religion aspects of being a Sith.
Yes.
His whole thing is basically like, I want to be able to use the Force however I want. And I'm like, okay. What is it? So in this whole world where we've had so many different Force cults pop up, including in this fucking show,
Yeah.
you rip off the Sith, name drop the Sith, which again, Jedis here will go on to say have not been seen in thousands of years.
Yes.
And then you make him not the Sith. But he's also not one of these witches, and he's also not from some other offshoot. He's some other thing.
Yes.
And I'm just like, this is bullshit.
But then in this episode, he brings up the power of two and how he wants to have a second person. And so that makes you think it's the Sith again. And you're like, God damn it, dude.
But if it was, then he
whiplash.
He wouldn't be able to have the power of two because he would have a master hunting him right now.
Yes.
So I'm so confused. If Darth Plagueis shows up, I'm going to throw a couch.
Well, that's the thing that could make the show stupider. Is they kind of hinted, if you think about it, at the very end of the
Darth
show,
Plagueis.
that he is the apprentice, and that Saul is Darth Plagueis.
Oh, yeah, that would,
because he turns off the communication.
And
he doesn't want to
leaves.
be there.
He turns off the communication just as the rescue team is going to arrive.
And he makes sure to get out of there right before the rescue team arrives. And he says, we have to find May.
Even though, if that was actually his prerogative, why call in the rescue team in the first place?
See, but
he's the one that called it in.
Things need to make sense.
So why would he call it in only to then be like, oh my God, they're going to find me?
And they even have that discussion on the planet when that one dumbass British Jedi says, oh, do you think Master Saul? And then you have freaking Vernestra say, oh, well, why would he call us in?
That's quite an accusation.
Yes, quite an accusation. Oh, her delivery, she was terrible.
Awful. Every time she talks, I'm like, man, I don't know what you were brought in this for, but it's not good.
Well, they kind of made it known when she kills the bug, okay, Smilo Ren has whip marks on his back, and she has a lightsaber that can turn into a whip?
Where do you think that came from?
I wonder where that came. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
It's just the writing, the directing, and the acting are some of the worst I've ever seen.
It's all bad. Like, that's the thing, is that there's nothing I can hang my hat on.
No.
All of it is bad.
Yes.
Top to bottom, it's all bad. And then they'll show me something like a lightsaber whip or a Wookiee Jedi. And they're like, oh, see, this has stuff you've never seen that you've wanted to see for years. And I'm like, duh! On top of a shit pile of garbage.
Yeah.
You literally have Jedi power armor. We had that as children because we couldn't fight well enough to not get tapped by lightsabers. So you had to have something that would prevent the lightsabers from hurting you.
Yes.
Do you think if at any point Jedi power armor actually existed, it would have come up in the last, 45 years? Because I kind of feel like it would have come up at some fucking
Supposedly
point.
it was in some canonical like comic book or
No, because they got rid of all that shit. They stripped it all out.
Well, I know they did. I'm saying even though they stripped it out, it was mentioned. So it's like I had heard something about it, but it's like you said, it's never been seen. It's never been seen.
It's never been talked about. This is the first time it's ever been brought up in a movie. Tell me again how this doesn't sound chintzy and made up.
I think the whole point of it was for that final scene going to credits.
Oh, 100%.
Where Osha's wearing it and she sounds like Darth Vader with her breathing.
And she's going to go into the Force because she's in this sensory deprivation helmet. And it's going to make it so that she can't feel anything but the Force. And she's going to... But, oh wait, except... according to her mother, the Force isn't a thing. The Force is a lie.
Yes.
And it's been a thread this whole fucking time. Mm-hmm. And also, what is May's whole objective? Because I've fully lost track of what she's trying to accomplish.
I can't. Because then she was like, at one point, going to stab Saul on the ship, but then he turned around quick, and so she's like, oh, I guess I
won't do it right now.
Dude, you were going to, like, turn yourself into Saul and be like, 100%, I'm what's wrong, and this and that, and now it's like, oh.
They'll forgive me if I give them my master. What happened to that plan? What happened to that dumbass fucking plan?
And that's the problem with, and I think that's my biggest problem with the show, is they're setting things up that if it was written correctly and done properly, could have a good payoff. But at this point, regardless of what the payoff is, everything has been so badly, it's like watching, like, Lady in the Water.
Yeah.
Bad M. Night Shyamalan movies that have the twist at the end, it doesn't matter what the twist is. If the whole movie leading up to it was fucking terrible.
Well, to me, it reminds me of The Happening, where it's a terrible movie, and then at the end, M. Night Shyamalan comes out and says, oh, well, it's supposed to be a parody of terrible movies, so that's why it's a terrible movie. It's because I was trying to make a terrible movie. Oh, is that why it was bad?
Yeah.
So the whole plan was to make a terrible movie. The whole time was to make a terrible movie.
And all the marketing was M. Night Shyamalan's first R-rated movie. Hold on to your seat. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's not a terrible, awful movie.
Tongue-in-cheek.
No.
Marky Mark's going to talk to a plant.
Marky Mark, well, you're going to have an entire guy do a soliloquy on the wonder of hot dogs. Oh my God. They're the perfect food. And just awful shit garbage. And this reminds me of that.
Yes.
Of just like, this is awful shit garbage. And then everybody calls it out as awful shit garbage. And the creators are like, oh, you just don't get it. You just don't get my vision for what I'm doing. And it's like, no.
Your vision is
You don't have
shit.
a vision.
Yes.
There is no vision. If you had a vision, you would follow the rules of Star Wars. You have profoundly rejected the rules of Star Wars. And so you have no vision.
Yeah.
I hate this show.
And that's like the only thing, and you think they would learn from the prequels. At least the prequels, other than midichlorians, stuck to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
The midichlorians was the only real deviation.
Like, they expanded the Force powers, and they started the Jedi are blind to things that they don't want to acknowledge, which is really what the show is trying to hang its hat on.
Oh, big time.
Is that all of these Jedis are just blind to what they don't want to acknowledge, which just happens to be anything that is plot related in any capacity. These Jedis just can't see or sense or anything, which is garbage because it doesn't make any fucking sense within the body of the plot that these Jedis, who are real Jedis, would be approaching problems this way.
Yes.
It just makes no fucking sense. And, like, I'm waiting for Smilo Ren to use the Force to turn off people's lightsabers. Like, just to click the button and turn it off.
Oh, he will.
And kill people that way. It's like, yeah, no shit. You can come up with some really fucking dumb ways to kill people in Star Wars. The point is not to do that, though. You know, you can do that in fucking anything.
Yeah.
So, please take this seriously because, God, I can't stand this. This is awful garbage. This is awful garbage. The killing of Plo Koon is just such a microcosm of this whole show.
Yeah.
There's a whole history. We're going to cherry pick that history. We're going to use it to draw fans in. And then we're going to say, fuck you, fuck your history. This is something different.
And they, you know, it's going to have to get to a point where they need to allow critique of this to look past the gender of the showrunner.
That has nothing to do with it.
But that's what they're making everything to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you got to admit when something is just bad. And this is just fucking bad.
If Michael Bay came to us with this turd and said, I made a Star Wars... Oh, you know what? We have one. I don't even need to come up with a hypothetical because we have one.
What's that?
When Robert Rodriguez made Book of Boba Fett...
Yes.
And we all sat around and said, this isn't Star Wars.
Yep.
And they said, no, this is the new version of Star Wars. And we were like, no, this isn't Star Wars. That had nothing to do with Robert Rodriguez as an individual. That had nothing to do with his demographic.
Yeah.
That had everything to do with the creative decisions he made coming into this show.
And that was a filmmaker that has had success and has an actual resume of things.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is somebody who's never really done anything. So you kind of have that pass if you just admit that it maybe isn't that good.
You went the wrong way. You got
then you can say,
around.
well, listen, it's her first thing.
Yeah.
It's her first big thing. Give you a pass on that. Someone like Robert Rodriguez, you're not going to get the pass because you've done things of this budget, so you need to be able to actually find a way to make the narrative work. To with her, it's like, dude, okay, regardless of anything, it's your first big thing, we'll give you a pass. But when you're saying you can't criticize me over it's like, no, dude, that's not part of it. Yeah, I can't make anything. I can't even make a show as good as you're making this because I don't know how to make it. But I've seen enough things that I feel confident critiquing it.
Yeah. I know what works and I know what doesn't work.
Exactly.
And if you're going to... I said this last time we talked about The Acolyte in regards to both her and Kathleen Kennedy. If you're going to splatter your name all over this, which they do,
yes.
She is credited on at least 3 or 4 points. If you're going to splatter your name all over this, then it's your fault when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with you as an individual. That has everything to do with the fact that you wanted credit for this, so now the credit, which is bad, has to come to someone, which is you. So you can't be angry at us for calling your show bad because you made a bad show and then put your name all over it.
And this is a discussion I've actually been having with both of my kids. Neither one of them handle criticism well. They always, even if you go, gently, like if my daughter does something, I'm like, honey, I just want to let you know what you did. Don't do it again. I'm not mad at you. She can't handle that still. She starts crying or it makes her upset. And it's like, this is kind of the situation she's in where it's like, listen, you're new to this stuff. You need to be able to take the criticism and grow from it. If you're not taking the criticism, you're not going to get better at what you're doing. I mean, James Cameron made Piranha 2 before he made Terminator. It's like he made some shitty stuff that people were like, this is fucking dog shit. I don't know why the fuck you're watching it. Peter Jackson made Bad Taste. and Brain Dead. And even though you love Bread Did, Meet the Feebles, it got, he gets hammered for it, but he learns from it, learns what he needs to do, and becomes better.
The Frighteners isn't a perfect movie.
Yeah.
But you can look at it and see the growth in his career, in his CGI, in his storytelling. This is just a fucking mess.
Yes.
This is just a fucking mess top to bottom. And every time I have any kind of question about it, the answer is, fuck you. It's my vision.
Exactly.
Fuck you.
If you can't accept critique, you're not going to improve.
No, well, not only that, you shouldn't be in... Listen, as a person who struggled with accepting critique for decades, you shouldn't be in the industry if you can't handle critique.
Yeah.
If you can't handle critique, don't get in the industry and don't make a Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Because I agree, Star Wars fans can be awful. I still feel bad for Kelly Marie Tran, who did not deserve what happened to her because of The Last Jedi.
Yes.
She was not the problem with that movie.
Not at all.
There were a million other things that were the problem with that movie. But Rian Johnson certainly deserves blame for that movie. And so does Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
Because they were the two people that had the brainchild, that put it all together, that brought it out, that decided on the story, that decided on the narrative, that decided on the storytelling and the pacing. And this is what they came up with.
Yeah.
And while I can look at the Haldo maneuver and be like, that's an objectively cool shot, it doesn't change the fucking gambling planet.
Yeah.
Or the kid that moves the broom with the Force at the end of the movie. Or the fact that Finn, Rey, and Poe do not become a trio until the end of the second movie. Or any of the other myriad of problems that this movie had. The entirety of Captain Phasma. Like, I can go on. Benicio del Toro, do you remember that he was in this trash
Jesus
pile?
Christ, I do forget that sometimes.
Like, this is what I'm saying. That all falls on Rian Johnson. This all falls on her.
Yes.
Leslie
Headland.
This all falls on her because she's the person running it. She has the reins, and if you don't like it, then don't come into the sandbox.
Yeah.
If you don't like how people are going to critique how you use the sandbox, then don't get in the sandbox. We will be perfectly happy over here where we have rules and regulations on how to use the sandbox. You can't come in, dump a fuck ton of water and cement and say, it's a new sandbox.
Yeah.
No! That fucking ruins everything for everybody. And it's incredibly selfish and outrageously demeaning to a fan and disrespectful to us as fans to do this shit. Anyway.
And that's it. Kind of goes with an interview I saw with Kevin Smith recently, where he's talking about how he makes these smaller movies because A, it's a lot easier to make your money back on a smaller movie, and B, if it gets panned, he doesn't give a shit because it's a $2-3 million movie. It's not like he's making Cop.
Yeah.
What's that? Cop Out.
There's a difference between Cop Out and Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
Yeah. He goes, if somebody says, "Oh, your last movie sucks," he goes, "What? Yoga hosers? Okay.
Yeah.
It fucking costs nothing.
Fine.
What? The one with the walrus? Okay.
Yeah. Tusk.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's like that's the kind of mentality. If, like you said, if you're going to be given a $180 million budget, you got to take responsibility for a $180 million budget.
My final critique is the same one that I sent to you last night.
What's that?
Which is, now that you've brought up Kevin Smith. If I wanted to watch a donkey show, I would watch Clerks 2.
Yes.
I would watch a Kevin Smith movie. And ironically, Kevin Smith would probably make a much better Star Wars movie because he knows the fucking history.
Yes.
Even if it was just like Clerks but in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
It would get the whole of it much more than any of this moment, and that's not because he's a man, and it's not because he's white. It has everything to do with the fact that he actually knows this shit and has been following it the whole time.
And this goes back to what I said that a couple episodes ago, where the big problem is the critics that are getting hammered are the nerds who 20 years ago were made fun of for liking Star Wars. So now, because they're being critical because you're trying to take over the thing they love that you made fun of them over, but now you can make money on, so you're going to try to do your own thing with, that's not fair to me, man.
You weren't interested in Star Wars.
No.
You, I don't know that this is true, but the sound of it so smacks with the tone of the show is, I had an idea for a Star Wars thing. I'm going to fix Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that feels like what the look and feel of this show is. is I'm going to go in and I'm going to take all the dumb parts of Star Wars and I'm going to fix them, and I'm going to take everything else and elevate it to make it even better. And instead, what you've done is trash on everything that makes Star Wars, and made an incredibly terrible show on top of it, where if we're just talking about the filmmaking and narrative, also bad.
And this is where I think the lead blame has to be on Kathleen Kennedy, because she is the one that is hiring these people who have these visions that go against everything of the canon, everything of what made it what it is, and saying, I sign off on you to do this.
Yeah.
She is the top of the mountain.
Well, until she doesn't like what they're doing.
And then she
fires them and brings in somebody else to do what she wants them to do.
So, like, I put her and Kevin Feige right now, side by side, for destroying these two franchises. One that Kathleen Kennedy didn't even build, but she helped build, and one that Feige built, pretty much. Him and Jon Favreau together. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they just are... You could tell they don't give a shit about the fans. They don't give a shit about the real fans. They give a shit about the money and how much they can make and how quickly they can get something out and how many new fans they could bring in by completely changing everything to maybe bring in these tertiary fans. But they don't understand that the tertiary fans are not going to be there in 2 years.
They're going to leave it.
They're going to leave it for any reason.
Yeah, because they don't care.
They don't care.
Because these are franchises that have been around for over 40 years. And if they didn't care before, they're not going to care now.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody's going to sit down and watch The Acolyte and be like, this is what Star Wars was always missing.
Yeah.
Because if they did, then they didn't like Star Wars before.
Yep.
Because everything in The Acolyte is antithetical to what Star Wars is.
It's kind of like with the Wii. When the Wii came out and it started selling to everybody, and everyone's like, oh my God, everyone's gamers now. It's like, no, they're not.
Yeah.
This is a niche thing that is being sold to this group, but in 2 years they're not going to give a shit. And you know what? In 2 years, you can find a Wii for fucking nothing. And it was nothing but shovelware because everyone couldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It was collecting dust. And it's like, but the core people still were like, no, but we still want like core Nintendo franchises and we want this, but they weren't listening to us. And now they're finally listening again with the Switch, and hopefully all these things that we love will have like a Switch-type renaissance in a couple of years when new showrunners take over.
Yeah.
But we're seeing that with DC. May or may not happen with fucking James Gunn. So
we'll see. No, it reminds me a lot of a bit on Dropout, where they announced the new Phase 6 villain, and it's Raisin Man. And the bit is the guy playing Kevin, Zach Oyama, is going over and he's like, this is what we're doing. This is the whole timeline of all these movies that are coming out. And then next year, Raisin Man. And one of the other improvers acts as a person in the audience. And they're like, who? Raisin Man. Who's that? What comic is he in? Oh, we don't have to do that anymore. We're past that. We can do whatever we want now. And I'm doing Raisin Man. That's what this is.
Exactly.
That's exactly what this is.
And that's sad. That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, folks, not to end on a sad note, but that is the end of Nerdpod Generations episode 145. We really hope you enjoyed everything you heard. We will be back next week, and we'll be back for the unknown future because we have no vacations coming up.
No, we already got all of our vacations done.
Everything's out of the way. So, Nerdpod Generations 145. So please go to nerdpodgen.com, look us up, let us know what you think about the show, let us know what you think about us. There is a part on our website where you can just email us directly and let us know what you think of us.
Yeah.
Think of the show. So, Al, who does our music and our logo?
Our art is by Courtney Howell. Our
awesome.
Theme is by Brendan Williams and James Connolly. I am Alfred Judson.
I'm Steve Taylor.
And until next week, friends and enemies, we won't cover 2 episodes of The Acolyte.
No.
Thank the gods.
I don't even want to carry one.
Have a good one, friends and enemies.